Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content.
And with that, we bring in Joel Klatt. He'll be calling the Washington at Michigan games. That is a really, really good game. A lot of urgency for both teams. So let's start with this. There's rumors, and they seem pretty substantial, that Penn State's like, okay, we know we're spending $700 million on an update to Beaver Stadium. We know we just wrote a $45 million check to James Franklin. And we know we'd have to write a $100 million check for Marcus Freeman and his staff. But I hear those rumors, and that's probably the guy I would go after. Do you buy him? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that Pat Kraft, the athletic director at Penn State, is going to take a big swing. I don't think that anybody is off of his list, to be quite honest with you. And if I was Pat Kraft, I would start with the biggest swing possible. I know this sounds crazy, but I think the first call I would make is Nick Saban. And just make sure that's not going to happen. And then you start going down the list of the other coaches around the country. I think Dan Lanning would get a call, and I think Marcus Freeman would get a call. Now, would Freeman leave Notre Dame? I'm not sure. He just went to the national championship. You know, I'm sure he feels like he can build something special. Is Penn State a better job than Notre Dame? I don't think it is, personally, but that's a call that I would make if I was Pat Kraft, because, again, this is a good job. I don't know if it is a great job in college football, but in this cycle, it's probably going to be the best job available. Colin, even if Florida were to come open, if they make a move off of Billy Napier, even if Florida State, went south and Mike Norvell was let go at Florida State, whatever happens at Wisconsin, even if Brian Kelly were to, somehow take a nosedive with LSU beginning, let's say this week, I'm not sure that any of those jobs, maybe LSU is, but Penn State is set up perfectly. You brought up the investment into the stadium, $700 million into the stadium. They're willing to pay the money to James Franklin to buy him out. They've got support, and they've got an athletic director that's willing to win. I think Curt Cignetti should probably get a call. I would be swinging for the fences if I was Pat Kraft, because here's the thing, is that this reminds me a lot, maybe not quite to the tier of Georgia, but Mark Richt at Georgia seemed to have a ceiling on that program, and they felt like they could go higher. They bring in Kirby Smart, and they did go higher. Maybe that's the moment that we're in for Penn State right now, where the next guy is going to lift the ceiling of this program, and they can actually go out there and win some of these top 25, top 10 games that James Franklin has fallen short in.
So USC, speaking of Notre Dame, goes to South Bend. I don't think it's a great spot for them. I think the quarterback play at Notre Dame is so efficient. They'll pick on USC's corners, the weakness of their roster. I thought they bullied Michigan. I do not think they'll be able to do this to Notre Dame. I thought it was a very I said I thought it was bigger than people realized, beating Michigan and beating them the way they did. That game was not as close as the score, and I'm not sure Michigan's got the right coach. We'll talk about that in 5 minutes. But I don't think USC necessarily matches up well here. What say you?
It's not as good of a matchup as they had against Michigan. But I think, let me go back to your point about the substance or the substantial, moment for USC last week in beating Michigan the way that they did. I started to think to myself, yeah, they've had some big wins since Pete Carroll left, but I can't remember one that was maybe as important because of the way that it was played. This signals to everybody like, hey, maybe we can play at the top end of the Big Ten. They took the team in this conference that not only won the national championship a year ago in Michigan, but also lays their entire identity in being a physical team and winning the line of scrimmage. And USC won both lines of scrimmage. That's why you saw Lincoln Riley so emotional and joyful after the game, is because he knew what that win meant and the fashion in which it happened. So that's an important win. Now, the matchup against Notre Dame probably isn't quite as good. And the reason is, and you touched on it briefly, is the balance that Notre Dame has on offense.
Yeah.
Because Michigan really can't, well, I shouldn't say can't. They don't throw the ball well in just a drop back scenario. So they have to run the football and then get their quarterback out on the outside in order to start to throw the ball and be efficient doing so. But that's not the case with Notre Dame. So Notre Dame can run it with Jeremiah Love. He's one of the best backs in the country. And then CJ Carr has been outstanding. He's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. And so they have that balance that would scare you a little bit. And yes, there is an opportunity to throw the ball against USC. Illinois proved that. a couple of weeks ago when Illinois ended up beating the Trojans. And so this matchup maybe isn't quite as good, but I sure feel a lot different about this game as a Trojan fan, if I was a Trojan fan, today than I did last week at this point because of the way that they were able to beat Michigan. Now you can at least lean on the fact that, hey, maybe we can run the football, and it's not just going to be a Maava show on the road in what could be rainy conditions, by the way, 50 with some rain. It's almost like the Catholic school has a direct line to God, right? It's like, hey, what do you want to do with USC? It's like, give us some rain and some cool weather. So it could be an interesting one, but I certainly feel like Notre Dame is set up in this game and balanced enough on offense to take advantage.
Well, your top 10 has Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, Texas A&M, Bama, Texas Tech, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ole Miss. I don't have any quabbles with it. Let's talk Oregon. What happened against Indiana? I'll say this about Indiana, is last year they were a great story. They weren't a great team. I had my reservations. I did say I thought it would be close, but they really dominated the game. Do you buy in? Let's talk Oregon, what happened, and do you buy Indiana as a national title contender?
Yeah, so the first part of that is I think that Oregon has got to look themselves in the mirror a little bit because physically they got beat up at the line of scrimmage and they couldn't protect their quarterback. That was a huge issue in particular in the second half. And they didn't really do anything defensively to disrupt the timing of Fernando Mendoza. So Indiana was able to stay balanced and run the football if they needed to. And then Mendoza was really good and not pressured much in the pocket. So the line of scrimmage for Oregon, they've got to take a big look in the mirror and actually evaluate what are we right now and what are we going to be moving forward. I do think that they're talented enough and that's a good enough coaching staff where they can learn from this, grow from this, and become better. Remember, Ohio State lost at Oregon last year. They lost against Michigan and became something great afterwards. That's certainly still on the table for Oregon. Now, the second part of your question, I think this win, maybe even more so than USC over Michigan in the way that happened in the Coliseum, this was a real seismic type of performance because it transitioned Indiana from a good team that we didn't know if they could handle the big boys to, okay, wow, this is a national championship caliber team. I really believe that. They were great on the offensive line. They were terrific on the defensive line. Their quarterback is as good as any out there, and their wide receivers make a ton of plays. I talked with Curt Cignetti on my show earlier this week. He is a process-oriented guy. He's one of the best coaches in America, and they really attack the weaknesses of their opponent as well as anybody. Their coordinators have been terrific. This is, again, a seismic moment in college football and in the Big Ten Conference because Indiana just proved to everybody around the country that they're not just a cute story and they're not just a legit team. That's a team that could beat anybody in America and potentially win a national championship.
It's last year I thought Ohio State, it took Chip Kelly a while, and new coordinators do. He was a pro coordinator. He comes in to his buddy Ryan Day, and it took him a while. And then Matt Patricia, Chip leaves, Matt Patricia comes in, and, the Arch Manning struggling, he struggled a lot. Maybe it wasn't Matt Patricia. But I'm watching that Ohio State defense, and I'm just telling you, turn the volume down on your TV. Don't listen to the announcers. Don't listen to confirmation bias. Well, no, you guys are good and everything. But my point is, they look
shots fired in the middle of the question. My goodness.
They look faster than college offenses can handle. Ohio State's defense looks too equipped for the average college offense. That's what it looks like to me.
I am going to try to disregard that clear personal shot that was taken and try to address the question as it was asked from the substance, Colin. I will tell you that this defense, yes, they're fast. Yes, they're physical, but it's the fact that they can run so much from a schematic perspective and do it well. Their players are really smart. And I think the thing that makes them so difficult is a lot of their players are what I would call hybrid players. So they're versatile. Caleb Downs, probably the most versatile defensive back in all of college football. They can line them up anywhere. It makes it incredibly difficult to get an indicator of what they're in. Arvell Reese has been maybe the story in college football on the defensive side for how quickly he's rising up draft boards. He could be one of, if not the best defender in college football, their linebacker. Oh, by the way, they also have Sonny Styles, who's a 5-star, 6'5", 240-pound linebacker that can run. all you have to do is look at some of these opposing offenses, what they've done against other opponents, and then what they don't do against Ohio State. I think this weekend I'm studying DeMond Williams, getting ready for the Michigan-Washington game, which I think is going to be a fantastic game, by the way. DeMond Williams in the Washington offense is one of the best offenses in all of college football. DeMond Williams is like Kyler Murray light.
Yeah.
He had just short of, I think, 1 million yards against Rutgers last Friday night.
Right.
And then you look at what he did against Ohio State, and it was basically nothing.
Nothing.
And it's because of the scheme, and it's because of the length, the versatile nature of their players, and the speed with which they play. Matt Patricia has done an incredible job. Every play, it's a different defensive front and a different coverage, and that combination changes throughout the game, and it makes it hard on the play caller and the quarterback to decipher what that defense is in. And by the way, they've got some of the better players in the country.
Yeah.
That defense has allowed me to sit there, watch Ohio State, and be pretty comfortable in saying that they have separated themselves at the top tier of college football. That is pretty clearly the best team in college football. And think about this, Colin, they haven't even really gone into third gear. They've just been allowed to play patient, conservative offense, and no game is close.
Yeah, the Washington game was a real eye-opener because Washington's offense, sometimes it took it a while to get going against Maryland, but Washington can score at all levels, tight end, running back, quarterback, receiver. They got Sunday guys. So I want to talk about Michigan. I've said this for years. It can become, it sounds a little elitist when I say, don't hire the coordinator. Don't hire the popular guy on staff. Do a global search and get the best coach. So Harbaugh leaves, and they bring in the popular guy on the staff, capable guy, nice guy. But I'm like, it's Michigan. I'm not sure I want Michigan to be your first job. Harbaugh had coached in college. He coached in the NFL. And it took Harbaugh a long time at Michigan to get going. And so my take was, I know that's the popular choice. I love Marsh and I love Underwood. But I'm watching Michigan get pushed around, and I don't remember Harbaugh teams getting pushed around like that. Did they got the right guy?
Well, here's the pushback I would give you is that when your team is having top-end success, a succession plan has actually been the blueprint that has worked best. Think of Ohio State, from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day, from Oklahoma, Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley. You can have the global search. Yeah, I understand that sentiment, but the problem is that locker room felt like they didn't need a change. And you don't want to disrupt the culture of something that is working. It's different when you've got to fire James Franklin. And then there is a clear mantra of like, we're going to build something different or go to a different location when a coach is underperforming. But when you're performing at the highest level, the succession plan is actually what has worked in college football. And the fear, even though you don't want to operate out of fear, but the fear would have been, if you were Ward Manuel, the athletic director, that if you would have brought someone in from the outside, even if it was a home run, right, and you win the press conference, do you retain the roster? And that's a question. Do you retain the culture? That's a question, because we've also seen teams that are really close, that are good cultures, that are good football teams, but want to go to greatness, and they make the wrong hire. Bill Callahan at Nebraska, possibly Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. And so you change that culture of something that you've been for a long time and your players believe in, and it can go south. And I think that was the predicament that Michigan was in when Jim Harbaugh left. Sharon Moore is at a really important time in his tenure at Michigan. That loss was ground shaking in a lot of ways in that building because of the way that it happened. As big as it was for USC, it's probably even worse for Michigan because of the way that it happened. They have to get back to first principles. What made you great in 2021 that started the run toward a national championship? Physicality, stopping the run, running the football. See, if you do three things at Michigan really well, you can probably win. Stop the run the ball, cover kicks. That's what Jim Harbaugh did. Now, it started to grow after J.J. McCarthy became a veteran quarterback, and they get some guys like Blake Corum and things like that in their offense. But those foundational things, that's what Sharon has to go back to. I would be pretty surprised if they didn't run the football 45, 50 times this week to get back to first principles Michigan identity.
Joel Klatt, college football, the voice at Fox. Good seeing you, buddy.
I mean, I didn't even take a shot at, weekly radio hosts and why you wouldn't want to listen to those guys.
Well, from
I
time
felt like
to
I
time.
took one right between the eyes. You know, you stay in Chicago or via remote, and it's just like, bam.
Listen, this show is hard. I mean, there's no kidding yourself. It's like going to Columbus in October. It's hard.
You got to be ready. You show up here, you better be ready.
Good seeing you, Joel.
You too,
Klatt.
bud.
So have you made your picks, J-Mac? I already got I sent my picks in today, my NFL picks. I send in 7 every week, and I get down to 5. Where are you at?
You're at 7?
No, I start with 7. I send them 7. The guys, I tell them 7 games I like, and then Friday, as the staff knows, I pare them down to 5.
Well, unlike you, I like to see a good injury report before I fire on teams like, I don't know, the Niners. I mean, who's telling who's going to show up for the Niners? I did fire on 2, that Cleveland-Miami game.
And, you know, that's the wise guy, the Sharps. The Sharps like Cleveland.
Well, are you willing to lay after-tax dollars, right, that you hard-earned on Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah.
Like, that ain't easy. And then the Lions game, I'm on that one as well. That would be Lions-Buccaneers.
Hey, are you getting to your big Luke? When are you getting to your big Lucas story?
You're really fired up about that, huh? Why do you say big? Don't you mean your skinny Luka story?
Yeah. Everybody, J-Mac was so fired up because Luka dropped 25 last night against G League Johnny in some preseason game. Oh, my God. You're going to be incorrigible this season.
Oh, boy. Hey, by the way, I know LeBron's hurt, and we're all very worried, but Luka looked pretty good running that offense last night, Colin. I know it's only preseason, but Luka, J.J. Redick, that's a winning combo right there. Against
the El Segundo Knights. Who did they play? They were talking about in this story about how James Franklin had a $45 million buyout at Penn State. And then I saw another story where Penn State is reportedly going to pursue Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman. Freeman's a great coach. That's the smart move. Kurt Cignetti, I don't know. Freeman feels like he got 20 years. But here's what's funny about it. Notre Dame, just spend the money. Double Marcus Freeman's contract. Because if I was Penn State, I would pay $15 million a year to get Marcus Freeman. Penn State football last year made $240 million. Is the coach worth $15 million? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Notre Dame, step up and pay it. I remember when the NIL, a few years ago, NIL, transfer portal, it's going to ruin the sport. And I said, if you want to compete, you'll have to spend money. All you schools have money. Penn State right now is doing a $700 million Beaver Stadium upgrade. They paid $45 million to get rid of James Franklin. And they would pay $100 million to get Marcus Freeman. It's just like in life, folks. Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and the oligarchs, they'll spend $4 trillion on AI development over the next decade. But yet our healthcare system often doesn't take care of the very poorest, sickest, and weakest. Countries, universities, institutions, governments always have the money. They always have the money. I grew up in Seattle. Seattle is a top 10 GDP city in the country. Starbucks, big money, Microsoft. The Huskies football program, NIL, average. Average. Not as good as Texas Tech, which I'm not even sure that area has a Panera Bread, honestly. Seattle has decided we're a NFL city and a Mariner city, and we like soccer and Husky football. They're giving some money. Oregon gives a lot more in little tiny Eugene. Phil Knight's totally committed. So when I see this story about Marcus Freeman in Penn State, it's a real story by real reporters. And if I'm Notre Dame today, I call Marcus Freeman's agent. I don't talk to Marcus. Marcus is preparing for USC. I just pay whatever I got to pay. If I have to rip his contract up and give him a new contract, that dude's got the look, the vibe, the recruiting, the touch, the feel, the toughness. That is what a college football coach is. And Penn State should go after him. I mean, Penn State took Ohio State's best coordinator. I'd go after Marcus Freeman too. You don't have to pay Cignetti at Indiana what you're going to have to pay Marcus Freeman. So by all means, Penn State, go after him. Notre Dame, don't let him go. Listen, Los Angeles, USC and UCLA are both in Los Angeles. They both have billionaires all over their alumni. One of them, USC, is committed to football. UCLA, you could argue, I think I read a story, USC had the most, maybe it was USC had the most people worth 30 million plus net worth in the country. And a lot of them, they like football. So the James Franklin firing, I wouldn't have done it yet, because if the interim guy wins 5 games and a cruddy bowl game, and all of a sudden the players revolt if you don't hire the interim guy, I always worry about the substitute teacher, everybody loves him rule. Here was Bruce Feldman earlier this week on the Franklin firing.
Coming off the loss at home to Oregon, you had just an abysmal performance out here in LA. That was a gut punch. They come back home. The atmosphere in Happy Valley was really subdued and down. And then they play a Northwestern program that's not that good either, and they lose that game. It felt like for everybody involved, it was time to make a change.
And it didn't matter what it costs. Penn State had the money, and Notre Dame has the money. And UCLA has a $9.7 billion endowment. If you want to win in football, call Nick Saban. Want to come out warm weather? Yeah, we'll pay for it. Everybody's got the money. And we could solve a lot of healthcare issues. We got the money. Super Bowl bubbles around the corner. Sean McDermott acknowledging on the bye week, we may need to tear it up and start over. Oh, it is a Wednesday, but not any typical Wednesday. We are loaded. Penn State trying to steal Notre Dame's football coach. The Bears are upset because they're not being fawned over by a national announcer. And the Dodgers remain the best-run organization in North America. I don't care what league. I don't care if it's college. There is no organization, from research and development, drafting, scouting. The Dodgers are unbelievable. It's an impeccable organization that's gotten to the playoffs, 12 out of 13 years. J-Mac, you looked at Milwaukee all year, and they swept the Dodgers, right? They beat them 6 times. And so I thought, and the Dodgers bullpen, liability. Yeah, this is a mismatch. And let's talk about it. Yoshi last night, Yamamoto, unbelievable. You know the Brewers are in trouble when they throw their ace, Freddie Peralta, who was virtually unbeatable at home, untouchable at home. They also get a leadoff home run in the first inning, bottom of the first, and they get blown out. And this thing should have been worse. The Dodgers were 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. They stranded 10 batters. How many times did they load the bases? It's all about pitching. Yoshi Yamamoto, Blake Snell in game 1. And by the way, Ohtani and Glass now are coming up. We worried about the Dodgers bullpen against the Phillies. It would be their undoing. Okay, the Brewers, it'll be their undoing. We knew Cincinnati was overmatched. It's not. Ohtani's not even playing well. Ohtani's swinging at terrible pitches. So Milwaukee feels outclassed, and the Dodgers have so many bats. I know you all want to say it's about money. Steve Cohen, isn't he like the Mets owner, the richest guy in baseball? The Yankees have plenty of money. They don't spend it wisely. The Dodgers do a great job. I mean, their menu is so deep, doesn't matter if the milkshake machine in back is broken. They got somebody else stepping up. So Ohtani can't hit in the series. Here's Teoscar Hernandez or Max Muncy. And I think the Dodgers were very wobbly this year. They blew all those games, blew 26 save opportunities. But it's like the Chiefs dynasty. It's like the Brady-Belichick dynasty. It's like the Warriors dynasty. It is hard to stay self-motivated. Baseball is so long. It is hard from day one of spring training to now to stay motivated. And you know you're the best team and the deepest team. And so the Dodgers treat the regular season like a lot of us treated college. You know, you do the bare minimum for most of the school year, and then on the finals, it's an all-nighter. And the Dodgers now are buttoned up. Outside of Ohtani, who is just in an all-time slump right now, 2 for his last 25 start of the Philly series, and Ohtani's swinging at bad pitches. Like, he is out of sorts. Ohtani is lost. He'll pick it up on the mound when they go back to Los Angeles. But the bullpen liability, it doesn't matter. I mean, Blake Snell was so dominant in game 1. It was Koufax-level dominance that Yoshi last night was really, really good, but it didn't really compare. it's just the starting pitching is just covering up all the warts. The Ohtani slump, the runners in scoring position, left on base. And here is Dave Roberts afterwards.
I think if you look at the construction of our roster currently, the strength is the starting pitching. And, when you can have your most talented pitchers get the most outs, then you're in a good spot. And right now, all four of those guys are in a really good headspace. Physically, they're sound. And, you feel good about those guys starting a game and pushing them, and they're prepared for this.
It is interesting, though, is that Dave Roberts, regular on the show, he pulled Blake Snell, who was even more dominant. And then last night with Yamamoto, who was dominant but not quite as dominant, he just let him go. And I think it's kind of fascinating. I would have argued you let Snell go because he was so dominant, and it was the first game of a series, and I wouldn't trust my bullpen if I could steal one in Milwaukee. But once I had the win in Milwaukee and I had a bigger cushion, a 4-run lead, you could have argued you could go to the bullpen last night. You got a series lead. You got a 4-run cushion. So I understood if he pulled Yoshi last night. He didn't. Complete game. But the Snell was so dominant in game one. Just get that in the books. Don't worry about tomorrow. Get the win. First game of a series. But, Dave Roberts has said these are 50-50 decisions. You can go either way, but the Dodgers starting pitching is covering up all these runners left on, runners in scoring position, can't drive them home. Ohtani is completely lost. The starting pitching is that good. I've said this before. Sports fan is short for fanatic. I don't think it's my job to be a fanatic. Even when I was a young kid, building up my sports love, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, the Pacific Northwest, Seattle didn't have any pro teams, right? And so I was like a Cincinnati Red and a Kansas City Royal and a Pittsburgh Pirate and a Philadelphia Philly fan. And my first sports memory is going to watch Reggie Jackson, the Yankee bus pull up at the Kingdome. That's one of my first big sports memories. I projected most of my love for sports because the Pacific Northwest, Seattle didn't have pro teams until like 76, 77. Didn't have the Mariners until then. Didn't have the Seahawks until then. I was more of a college fan. And so, I've always looked at the whole menu of sports in this country. I don't really think I'm a fan of a particular region. People called me a Patriots homer when I used to work at the other place because I lived in Connecticut. But the minute the Patriots were bad, I stopped talking about them. I think I was more of a Brady fan. So I like greatness. I like efficiency. I like well-run businesses. So having lived in Southern California, I think the Dodgers, I bang on the Lakers all the time. I don't think the Lakers have been well run. I don't always think USC's been well run. I think the Rams are well run, and I think the Dodgers are the best run team I've ever seen. Yes, money matters. But Ohtani last year didn't pitch as the Dodgers won the World Series and didn't have a very good postseason. This year he can't hit at all. So they have not been winning in the postseason because of Ohtani. He's been a great regular season player. But, I don't like – listen, the Browns and the Jets are playing in Week 10. I'll pass. You knock yourself out. I'm not watching. So it's not about money. It's payroll creativity. It's scouting. It's getting the right money on the right people. Yankees have a ton of money. They're over-indexed on home runs. Mets have a ton of money. They're the Mets. So they'll give you an example. Tommy Edman was in St. Louis. The Cardinals had him. He was a good defensive player who hit about 265. The Dodgers bring him in, pay him a little more. Last year, he's the NLCS MVP, and he's hitting .318 in the playoffs. Tommy Edmonds was available for everybody. Anybody could have had Tommy Edman. Toronto and Seattle both had Teoscar Hernandez. Seattle let him go after a year. He's a monster for the Dodgers. God, is anybody more consistent in big games? Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez, they're great. And he decided last year, I'll stay with the Dodgers and take less money. Max Muncy was so bad with the A's, who are essentially a AAA baseball team. He was with them 2 years. The A's let him go. The A's let Max Muncy go. Last night, he had another home run. So, Max Muncy, Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez, the whole sport could have him. Well, Ohtani. I'm not saying money doesn't matter, but Ohtani has not been the reason they're winning last year's World Series, and they're favored to win this year's. He's not the reason. He can't hit. He is lost at the plate right now. I mean, he is swinging at bad stuff. And baseball does this like golf. A lot of downtime stuff gets into your head. Yeah. They outbid people for Freddie Freeman. Hall of Famer. Absolutely. But they were ahead of everybody on Roki Sasaki and Yamamoto. They were looking at those guys for years before they brought him over. I said on the air multiple times, I think 3 years before Ohtani, he was with the Angels 3 years earlier. And the Dodgers were moving the chess pieces and making the contacts to get him legally. So it's not just about the money. The Mets have it. The Astros have it. Astros are a really well-run organization. They just had a ton of injuries this year. But when I watch the Dodgers, I appreciate there's all these guys on this roster. Like the Yankees have money. They're totally uneven. They don't run the bases particularly well. They strike out too much, over-indexed on home runs. Now, they had a Garrett Cole injury, and that set them back clearly. If Max Fried and Garrett Cole are going into a series, they can beat anybody. But when you watch the Dodgers and the Yankees play last year, when Cole wasn't pitching, Yankees look like an American League Central team. They look like a mid-payroll team. They don't spend their money wisely enough. The Dodgers go. Max Muncy was let go. He was awful with the A's. The Dodgers found something, and it works. So it's easy. It's funny. Yankee fans loved it when they would dominate the hot stove league. When they would just, nobody else could afford CC Sabathia. Remember, initially CC was like, I don't know if I want to go pitch there. And they're just like, all right, we're gonna overpay or pay above the market, right? Like, and now CC is a great all-time Yankee, and he loved being a Yankee. But it's not just about that. They do so many things well. I mean, they had a major bullpen issue this year. Major. Typical Dodgers. They figure it out once they get to September and October. A lot of brooms being purchased in the Pacific Northwest. Target, Costco. We're running out of brooms. Okay, so the other thing I was talking about the Dodgers, and fans, they got all this money. Nobody's disputing that. Money matters. Nobody, you'd rather have a lot of money than no money, right? It doesn't mean there's a lot of happiness over a certain threshold, but you can waste a lot of money too. Here's another thing about the Dodgers. They stole Mookie Betts from the Red Sox. Mookie Betts was available. He was expensive. But before Ohtani, I mean, there's an argument Mookie is the most complete player in baseball. When you watch him play shortstop, like you would never know he could also play outfield. He didn't have a very good year until September, and then he caught fire. But Mookie Betts was available. He was available to a lot of people. And the Dodgers essentially gave the Red Sox picks or players, and none of the players did much. So the minor league guys didn't do anything. You can keep saying, again, Max Muncy, A's released him. A's were like, yeah, it's no good. He can't play. He was hitting like less than 200. He goes to the Dodgers, and here's Max Muncy, who's just, I mean, he's been hitting bombs for years in Los Angeles. And Teoscar Hernandez was available to the market. And then when he got to L.A., Teoscar's like, yeah, I'm going to play for less. So Tommy Edman, St. Louis had him, didn't want to pay him. He was a .265 hitter. He's a good defensive player. Dodgers, NLCS MVP. So when you're watching this thing, man, they are really, Andrew Friedman was the GM in Tampa years and years ago when Tampa got to a World Series and Tampa was really good, and you're like, how? They have no money. How did Andrew Friedman build up those Tampa teams? He didn't have the Dodgers payroll. He won in a division with the Yankees and the Red Sox and Toronto. Big money. Boston, Toronto, which I think is probably the richest city in Canada. The Yankees, all that money. Andrew Friedman was making the playoffs. So you took his brain power, you put him with a big bankroll, and they just don't miss a lot. They could have had Manny Machado. They passed on him. They could have paid for him. Zach Greinke years and years ago, they're like, no, I think he went to Arizona. They've had opportunities to buy other players. They buy the right dudes. Freddie Freeman got the right dude. Great in the locker room. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. And again, Ohtani has not hit the last two postseasons. They're not winning because of Ohtani. He's been a monster in the regular season. He can't hit. Right now, he is just lost. All right, here we go. It's hour number 2 on a Wednesday. Great show so far. Live in Chicago. It's The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Thanks for making us on any platform part of your day. Joel Klatt in about 5 minutes. I was saying, one of the things I like about postseason baseball, there's so much urgency. Analytics are important during the regular season, but you get into the playoffs and there's so much urgency that you may bring a starter who pitched brilliantly 2 days ago and bring him out of the pen. You're just doing things. I mean, like, watch the Dodgers starting pitching. There's no reason to pull a guy out in the 6th inning. I mean, last night, they let Yoshi go the whole game. You don't do that in the regular season. That's just not the way it works. So analytics, to some degree, in the NBA playoffs, it becomes a situational basketball league. 2-pointers are fine. It's not all 3-pointers. And in baseball, everything changes. You're just pitching differently. But I thought they should have kept Blake Snell in the game in game 1, and instead they went to the bullpen, because I want to take a series lead before I go to a bullpen that I don't entirely trust. Last night, Yamamoto was good. He wasn't as good as Snell. He was great, but not that great. You already have a 1-0 series lead, and you got a 4-run cushion. I would have gone to the pen. So it's okay. Even the announcers, Ron Darling and the guys, they didn't know quite what they were going to do. And then everybody's a genius about baseball after the fact. But in real time, nobody kind of knew what Dave Roberts was going to do. And that's the fun of baseball. And here were the announcers talking about it in the 8th.
And now if you're Dave Roberts, you have to start thinking seriously about allowing Yamamoto to finish this game.
I don't think he's going to finish this game.
So?
I just, because of the big delay in the 8th inning, because the offense of the Dodgers, he's going to give him this inning, and I think Banda will probably finish it in the 9th. But let's see. I mean, we're watching baseball from the 70s and 80s now with this kind of starting pitching by the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. The reason I would have kept Snell in game 1, he'd retired 17 straight Brewers. Nobody'd hit the ball out of the infield since the 3rd. It was Sandy Koufax. Just let him go. And he's also a very good pitcher post 100 pitches. And again, Yamamoto, Yoshi was great last night. He wasn't quite as dominant. I've got a 4-run cushion. I've got a 1-0 series lead. I've stolen home field advantage. So I would have flipped it. Dave Roberts, who we love, talked about going back to Yamamoto in the 9th.
I see a real confidence. I think that's what it is. I think that, last year, certainly there was a transition. And even in the postseason, I didn't give him a whole lot of leash. But I think this year, he's got true confidence from me that 3rd time through at pitch, 90, he feels that he's the best option. And so I think for me, that just gives me that confidence.
I like my managers to be adaptable and pragmatic. And that's the thing with Dave Roberts. He said after game 1, he goes, it was 50-50. Again, the Brewers couldn't get bat on ball. They did not hit a ball out of the infield since the 3rd inning. I'd have just gone with Snell. But that's it. You're up 2-0. There's no right answer. That's the fun of baseball. But you do manage it differently now than you do in the regular season. And I've said the term I've always used is manalytics. It's analytics, postseason's manalytics. I'll look at the analytics, but sometimes I want my alpha. I'm just going to go with him. I'm just going to trust him. I don't care what the numbers say.